Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. We're delighted to share tonight's event featuring award-winning author Chang-rae Lee. Just as a reminder, you can purchase signed copies while they last of his latest book, My Year Abroad, from Parnassus Books. And we'll go ahead and we'll put that link in the Facebook comments for you. Tonight, we'll be taking audience questions, which you can also put in the Facebook comments. Tonight, we are thrilled because Chang-rae Lee is in conversation with award-winning author and co-owner of Parnassus Books, Ann Patchett. Remember to buy local, and I am pleased to turn it over to Chang-rae Lee and Ann Patchett.
Thanks, Elise. Hi.
Ann,
Hi.
hi.
This is how we meet people now on
I know.
Zoom. I'm so glad that you could do this. I've really been looking forward to this. And also, I'm going to tell you, I cheated a little bit. I watched a couple of events that you
Oh,
did.
you did. You
And,
did.
and
I like that kind of stalking.
it was so nice because you were really nice to the people who were interviewing you. I mean, maybe they were your friends, but you were a good talker. Like
Oh.
you didn't just give monosyllabic answers. I felt very relaxed. I was like, I can interview this man. It's fine. He knows how to talk. So I want to ask you start off with some sort of general questions about life before we start talking about your fantastic novel that goes with my sweater and
And your
I loved it.
wallpaper.
No, isn't that good? This is
Yeah.
actually my bedspread.
Oh, your best friend. I didn't know what it was.
I'm always working on a new tableau. So how's the pandemic been? I'm very curious to ask writers this question. How's it working for you?
Well, I teach at Stanford, and it happened to be this year my sabbatical year. So it was both, I think, a blessing and a curse because I don't really love teaching via Zoom, which everyone is doing now, of course, and as you know, I know that you've taught here and there and in the past, but especially creative writing, you really need to be together in the room.
Yeah.
There can't be any kind of hesitation or video kind of shakiness and also you almost need to hear people breathing because it's a very personal, very, and you need to allow silences. And so that I was happy not to do. But, normally I'd be doing research, traveling a lot, probably ensconced somewhere nice, working on the new book. And so, that has been a little bit of a disappointment. We did get to travel a little bit. And otherwise, I think like everyone else, making the best of it, struggling a little bit. I know that a lot of younger people, especially my daughters are both in their 20s. Their whole lives are about social connection and going out and doing things, and so I think it's been especially tough on them. I know it's been. Yeah, go ahead.
Have your girls been home with you in this time?
Here and there, on and off, because one is doing remote schooling, one has been working. She actually works in Austin and doesn't have water right now. But of course, because it's all remote, they've been kind of coming back and forth, which has been great. I think that's the best part about it. We see them when we wouldn't be seeing them. I think we were really looking forward to empty nesthood, but then when they were back, we're kind of glad that the nest was full. So I think we've all been kind of making the best of it. I know that I've been doing different things, maybe cycling more than I usually do, trying to kind of tire myself out physically. I know that I've been making a nightly cocktail, which I don't normally do. so compensating in the usual ways. I think everyone knows those ways now.
But you were in Hawaii. I read that in the New York Times.
Yes, we did take a last minute trip. A friend had a place that we could stay, and we thought, I think we were really needing a change of pace, and a change of scenery. Not that San Francisco is so awful. It's quite lovely here, but and Hawaii is one of my favorite places for a lot of reasons, not just, you know, for the nice weather.
I'm really hoping eventually to make a friend who has a place in Hawaii.
I'm sure you have a friend and many friends.
I
I'm sure you
I
do.
do, but none of them have places in Hawaii. That's the key friendship that I've been looking for. What about reading? How has reading been for you in this time? Has it been different?
Well, early on, it was a little different. I think, like a lot of people, fairly distracted and, you know, doing that kind of, obviously, a lot of political reading, which was, of course, enraging, worrying, gave me a lot of anxiety, but like a drug, I had to keep going back to. I think we all know what that is. Now that that's over, thank God. You know, now you just read about policy. I've been getting back to novels and you know, other kinds of books, and that's been great. That's, you know, I'm catching up. I have such a big pile of books that are both I get and that are sent to me, and so now I'm.
Tell me about it.
Yeah,
I go on the
I know you.
bookstore.
I know.
Yeah, I could just pick up my computer and move it over 2 feet. You can see the avalanche of books.
Well, you must feel a real responsibility to go through all those books, as like no one does. I mean, especially since you might, I don't know, meet people whose books you maybe feel like you should have read at that point. But
I do. I mean, yeah, I think we all feel that responsibility, and everybody is looking to have their book sprinkled with fairy dust in some way. But I have to say, I mean, they're the books that I get at my house, which are never ending. But then at the bookstore at Parnassus, we have a wall of galleys. And so there's also that thing where you just go through the month and look and pull things down. And I remember pulling My Year Abroad off the galley shelf and just opening it up. And you want to talk about You Had Me from Hello, but that first paragraph, you know, I just remember thinking, I'm in. I'll follow this book till the end of the earth. And that's a very rare thing, as you know, as somebody who gets loads of galleys.
yeah, and I read applications as well. I teach in the Stegner program, which is, you know, a wonderful program, very experienced writers, even though they're maybe not senior writers, and it's all, you know, of course, really good, but, you know, as you say, it's not everything immediately grabs you and holds you, but when it does, you know, right? You just know. Yeah.
Do you have this sense of having lost a great deal of your reading life? Like, I think about that all the time. Like, years and years of my reading life have been lost on things that I should not have been reading.
Well, yeah. I mean, especially in my role as a teacher and somewhat, I don't like it as a gatekeeper, you know, to our program. But I think of it this way, you know, when I'm reading the, say, applications, I'm open and I'm vulnerable and I'm always so hopeful, you know, and maybe it's trained me to be that way, rather than, because if you had a more cynical attitude towards that huge stack, I think it would kill you. I think it would absolutely kill you. And so if something doesn't speak to me or it's not so great, you know, I think earlier on when I was less experienced, I would kind of get angry, like, oh, you're wasting my time, but I try not to feel that way anymore. I just think, you know, it's just not for me. You know, I'm not the advocate for this book.
Right,
I'm
right.
not its champion.
And certainly there are a lot of times at the bookstore where I will read something and it's not for me, but I also know that it's really good.
Right.
And I know that it is for somebody else. And I'm a much more generous reader than I used to be before I had the bookstore, because I read so many different things. So, I mean, if you were reading applications, that would have to be the
It's
same.
really quite similar, I would say.
Yeah,
Just not published stuff, but much of it publishable,
right.
right? And so, and that's the thing that I try to tell particularly my undergraduate students, is that you know, just writing well isn't the whole of it. You know, writing a good sentence or being able to, you know, having some kind of facility. It's you know, it's that, but so many other things that go into, you know, a certain kind of project that maybe has a freshness or a vitality or a vibrancy that another project just doesn't reach. And of course we talk, that's what we talk about the whole semester. Right. But it's a mysterious thing sometimes.
What makes a student great in your book?
uh well, I think it's a certain kind of courage,
Hmm.
I would say, because again, they're all at a certain level, right? I mean, they can all do, if they were, you know, visual artists, they could all do a beautiful sketch of
Hmm.
something, right? But maybe some can sketch with a certain kind of bravery, cum rashness, headlong, you know, sort of energy that is distinctive. It's a singular kind of focus that breaks open something about what they're looking at, a thought they're unpacking, or the world. And it doesn't have to be this grand thing. It's usually not. It's usually just this very small moment that just says, either in language or in intellection or some kind of approach that just kind of unmoors me in a nice way, and then I'm there, right? And then something's cracked open, and I'll stay there because, hey, I'm learning something. I feel different, you know. I something's tingling, you know.
All these questions about teaching are going to tie into the novel. I have a master plan with all of this, but I mean, obviously, you must be a fantastic teacher. And yet I wonder about time. I'm sort of obsessed with time. And do you want to keep teaching? Is this a huge part of who you are? Is this a huge part of just your job? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because you're also one of the very greatest writers that we have in this country. And I would wish for you to spend every moment writing. And yet you're giving this great gift of your attention as a teacher. And how do you kind of figure all that out?
Well, I think getting back to the writing part, the truth about my writing is that my at least the time I spend on it, I think I'm able to spend enough time writing even now. And spending more time writing without teaching, as my wife has pointed out, hasn't led to great places. More psychically probably than anything else. And so just on a personal level, I think the teaching is a nice balance for me, for, you know, getting me out of the house, for keeping me, I think, infused with an energy that may be waning in certain ways, because my students all are so exuberant and energetic and game. And as I'm sure you know, sometimes not that writing isn't ever mundane, but sometimes I lose my appreciation for what I'm doing. You know, I because it's a job, you know, and the work is tough and it's stressful, and people always ask, as they I'm sure ask you, it must be so fun. It's not fun at all. It's not fun to write. It's fun to have written something
Definitely.
that you like, and that, you know, but it's not fun in the act. And so it takes me out of that, and I tend to be a pretty social person, and people are sometimes surprised about that, from my novels, maybe not this one particularly, but my other ones. And I thrive on that. I like that. So I always say that, and of course, just the action in the classroom. And I've been very fortunate to have such great students over the years. Um, that's a real spark for me. And sometimes, I've said this, there'll be sometimes moments when I don't want to go to class. I don't want to prepare that manuscript. I don't want to, do this. But I never feel that way after class. After class, I feel great. After class, I feel energized. After class, I've learned something always. So that's, sometimes it's inconvenient, but it's always fulfilling, I think. So I really, if someone dropped, all the money on the world in the world on me right now, I don't think I'd quit teaching.
Well,
I might teach less than I do, but I don't think I would teach. I don't think I would quit.
that's the answer. And I think that the bookstore is like that for me.
Mhm.
I know that when I used to teach, it was just like a sponge, and it would fill up exactly however many minutes I had. I could never compartmentalize it and
Mm.
stop. It was just teaching. If it was one class or four classes, it was every single thing that I was doing. But I think I never got good at it. I never learned how to have any boundaries in it. Okay, I want to ask you a question that I should have asked you before we came on this Zoom, because it's just ridiculous to ask you in public. But is Tony Mara still at Stanford, and is he writing another book?
Yeah, he's around. He's taught as a lecturer, and again, I haven't been on campus and very much, for the past whatever months, but yeah, he's there. He's
I'm
there.
just a huge fan, and I
Yeah.
haven't heard anything that he's doing in such a long time. I want another Tony Mara novel to read.
I think 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, I thought I heard somebody saying he was finishing a book. So, uh,
Okay,
yeah,
then.
yeah. And
Uh,
there's so many great writers out who came out of the program and who hang out here. So, and my colleagues are Adam Johnson and Elizabeth Talent in fiction, and so
and
it's
is Toby Wolf still around?
he's still around. He lives near campus. He's retired. I think have his job. I took his job when he retired, and
Okay.
which are huge shoes to fill. We see him at dinners, and he's such a lovely fellow.
And I worked with his brother at,
Jeffrey. Well, I know Jeffrey really well. I've
and
gone boating with Jeffrey in
I have
Maine.
gone boating with Jeffrey.
Oh, you've been in that boat.
There we go.
Yeah. We've cracked lobster together and did a little wine drinking together. Which with the Wolfmen is a fun thing to do.
It is. They are fine men to hang out with. Okay, now I need to ask serious questions. But this is such a story about teachers and students,
Mm.
mentors and mentees, fathers and sons, sons and lovers, all of those things. And I have heard that Pong is based loosely on someone you knew or know. And I'd love to hear that story, but I would also really like to know, to what extent is Tiller based on your students or a student? Because he's kind of like, he is student, that energy, that purity, that spongy openness.
Mhm.
And I would love for you to just talk about Pong and Tiller and their relationship.
Yeah, well, Pong is for those of you who haven't read the book or know anything about it, he's the Chinese entrepreneur who lives in this town called Dunbar, where Tiller Bardman lives. He's a 20-year-old kid who's kind of at loose ends, and Pong is the fellow who takes him up and takes him out into the world, and they have these episodes together. And Pong was absolutely based upon a friend of mine, acquaintance of mine, but also not just him, but some other fellows I met while living. I taught at Princeton for many years, and that part of New Jersey, people don't really know it, thinking of Princeton as a certain kind of place, but it's quite diverse, and the area is, and there's so many. I met so many fellows, but particularly this one fellow who was so enterprising, so capable, so I would what would I say? He unlike a lot of immigrants, and I think we have the idea of the immigrant who comes over and he's cowed and he doesn't speak the language and he doesn't have any connections and he's afraid. Well, this guy, and maybe that was my parents when we came over in 1968, because the culture was different and the way that we were looked upon was different. But this fellow struck me, and the guys like him struck me as a very, very different kind of immigrant, someone who was kind of astride the whole world, who had everything at his fingertips, who had all the information he needed, so he was an entrepreneur, but an entrepreneur with full data, but behind it. And then the gumption and the gall and all the energy to say, you know what, I can do that. I can, open up a tofu factory in Amish country. I can, have this other shop. I can, formulate these chemicals from China and bring them over here, sell them for 10x. And so, but the great thing about this fellow and these other guys is they had not just one or two things, they had like 14 things going at once. And that kind of energy, I thought, was, as I said to another person, an energy that I just, I maybe was craving and thinking of, like, I thought, why don't I have that energy anymore? I'm an immigrant guy. But I guess, I've been, I'm middle-aged now. I'm 55. I've been settled in this country most all my life. And I guess feeling established, comfortable, and not having that same kind of drive that this fellow had. And I just thought it was so appealing. So he and I would just take him out to, a bar, and we'd have some beer and wings, and I just let him talk. And he was, very open, very game again. He knew I might write about him, and told me lots of stories, some of which, led to some of the things in the book. Stuff about back family history back in China, during the Cultural Revolution, and then some of the businesses. Now, obviously, most of it, everything else is made up. But so he was actually the inspiration for just writing a book. I didn't quite know the shape of the book, but I thought, no, Pong is going to be at the center of this book. But as I started writing Pong, I realized that I did need another consciousness, and that the other consciousness, the one for whom Pong would be the main object of scrutiny and affection, that person would be the one that actually that we would be maybe even more interested in, at least as the teller of the story. And because I was thinking, why I guess I asked myself, why am I so interested in this fellow, and what do I need? What's missing in my life and my sense of myself that Pong is filling? Why do I just enjoy hearing these stories? And that's where I came up with this, kid, 20 years old, in between years in college, college that he doesn't really like that much. Doesn't really care about much anything, but has lots of ideas, lots of stuff going on in his head. And to answer your question, Ann, I guess, he is, all these years of teaching, I suppose, everyone's around 20 years old all the time. Nobody ever grows old in my class. I just get older, but I don't feel older. And that aligned also with my own daughters being in their 20s. And I think I just had a lot of 20-year-old language, attitude, outlook, just, kind of running through my head. And to be honest, also, I think I thought back a lot to myself at 20 years old, and maybe the kinds of things thought about the kinds of things about myself that I would have liked to have changed. Maybe that I wished I had been more open, been more wild, been more kind of, reckless. And so I channeled lots of different things, and the thing about Tiller's voice, he's the narrator, although Pong does have some narration in the novel too, but but his voice was something that when I found it and started playing with it, and I really felt like, you know, I could tuck myself into it in a way that was both thinking about, you know, those 20-year-olds that I know, but also really thinking about me as I wished I was in some ways. You know, I wished I'd have been maybe a little bit more, I don't know, lackadaisical or indolent. Uh, I am secretly really indolent, but maybe in my life as a kid, and you know, from this certain kind of immigrant family, pushing. And so I thought about that, and voila.
Not a lot of people look back on their youth and think, I wish I had been more indolent. Those years at Yale working so hard. Okay, I'm going to give you a piece of 10 cents analysis. You ready?
Oh yeah, I'm ready. Okay, should I get down on my couch?
Get back on the couch, relax. So the whole thing about Pong and ambition and your friend and listening to his stories and feeling that sense of connection with him, and also going back to what are you looking for in a student, or what's exciting, what makes a great student? It's ambition. Which it is not ambition to be a huge bestseller. You know, it's ambition to take on the world, and that the large scope of energy, the large scope of vision. But that's what this is. I mean, you're a tremendously ambitious writer in the very, very best possible sense. So I would think that it would be a connection that you would feel to this man, as opposed to, I want to study him because I can't imagine being like him. It's exactly what you are like, because your books, you know, yeah, here's a guy who has a tofu factory and 14 different enterprising businesses, but good Lord, look at your body of work and all the different things that you've taken on, and the energy and vigor in this book, in all of them. But it is like from the first paragraph, you're just on the speed train.
Well, yeah, you know, it's funny. I don't think of it that way. I always feel as if that I lack ambition, you know, that I'm just, you know, barely scraping by sometimes. And you know, Pong and the man who inspired him, you know, I guess that maybe I'm just someone who's a little bit more afraid or something, or I feel like I should be afraid. And maybe that's why I'm, you know, partly why I'm a writer, because I can do all the things on the page that, and maybe, you know, to maybe analyze all of us is, you know, we can do things on the page that we can never do in real life. I'm never as articulate, you know, in real life than as I am on the page. And you know, I dream of that. And in this book, of course, as you know, I allow Tiller to, you know, engage and connect up with some of his hidden capabilities and, and talents, and all things that, you know, a lot of things that I wish I could do. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I should pay you about, you know, like $200 an hour.
That's why we brought you here. We care. And that's interesting, of course, because I don't know you. I wish I did. I hope I will. But I only know you through your work, in which, okay, in my mind, I mean, I don't, it's not that I think you're doing these things, but there's a fearlessness with which you are taking on a global book and two incredibly different plot lines. And I mean, you've got a lot of balls up in the air there that you're juggling the whole time. And that, in my mind, and you're pulling it off, is really, really ambitious. You talk about fear, and I want to touch on that, because one of the things that was so interesting to me about this book, which is in so many ways, it's a very funny book, and Tiller's voice is forever light, no matter what's going on. He's kind of like a 8-month-old Labrador Retriever. You know, he's just game. He's there. And yet, I found it a scary book.
Very
It's
scary. Very scary.
the way you set up, the way you use fear. That Tiller, who we just love like a son, like a student, he touches that part of our hearts, and that he is saying from the very beginning, oh, well, I know about horrifying things. I know about things that will break you. I know. And he says this again and again. And there were really moments that I put the book down. Anyway, because I was so scared. I was so worried about him.
Well, I didn't recognize how scary the book can be until my younger daughter, and they don't read my books, and they're just about the age now that they're willing to read my books, because it's psychologically too hairy to read your dad's books about anything. you know? But she decided to read this one, and she said she actually did have to put it down because she felt scared for him and scared for herself about what he's going to see and what might happen to people he loves. And again, that is one of the overriding fears that we all have for our beloved, and maybe the greatest and the greatest one, that and somehow that and when I've sent him out into the world with Pong, and also when he's back in a domestic situation with this woman, I knew that everything would be fraught at every moment, but not that there would be this hum in the background all the time, because he is so light, because he does want to be funny, and he does want to celebrate, but I think I always, with this book, I always said, no, this book is not only just a celebration of life. That's a Hallmark card. That there's something else going on in with every celebration. There is this, baseline of everything that came before it and everything that comes after it. And it's not that, right? It's never going to hit that high register all the time. And so it's more just a sense of balance, I suppose, because that's the world that I wanted him to go out into, the real world, which is, yes, there are glories, there are majesties, but there are also, grave, perversity and an obsession and darkness.
One of the reasons that I love Tiller so much is that he is, I think, both by his nature, a very positive, happy, glass half full kind of person, but also by his continued decision that he is this person and he is going to remain this person. And doesn't make any difference, but are you that person?
I think I am. My wife would say that, and I think my kids would say that sometimes they just said it the other day, that I try to see the best in things.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean I'm a sunny person all the time. It's just, for me, I think it's too depressing and too abrading not to do that. That's for me. It's just because I think if I didn't do that, and maybe it's the same thing with, when I mentioned about reading lots of applications, I think it would just wear me away if I were more of a skeptic. And now some people, that skepticism gives them energy, and it gives them a certain kind of humor, and I love that. It's just, for me, I think psychologically, I just can't do it. I don't know why.
Do you get flack about that professionally? I'm very much the same way, and I get a lot of criticism for it. Like the people who write about serial killers have a better sense of what's true in the world than people who see kindness.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes I feel people are suspicious of me.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because it's like, what is someone else writing his books, or or he's hiding something really, really ugly. And listen, I'm not a perfect person. I never have been. I've never done everything right. In fact, the opposite. But I think that that's, I think, an old notion about how writers are supposed to be, right?
Right.
And
Right.
that I should bring a bottle of bourbon to my reading, have a fight with somebody, try to bed as many people as I could after, all that kind of stuff. And not that I don't, again, I'm open-minded. You're like, you want to just live your life, and I'll live mine, and I'll do wild things too. Uh, but I think the the writing, the actual project, the thing that you're putting pressure on every day, each morning, um, that's a certain other being, right? That's someone else in a certain context who doesn't, I don't know how I could bring that context to everything else. And if I did, gosh, it would be a dark place for me. A really dark place.
Yeah.
And I can see how some writers just do, because that's who they are. You know, they're living that, and I just can't. I just
I'm glad.
can't.
Tell me about writing the two different stories. What I want to know is, did one come first? Did you always think that there would be two tracks that you were
once
following?
once I decided that Tiller would be the main narrator of this book, I knew that there would be two tracks. If it had just been Pong's story and his life and his own escapades, I think it would have stayed his story. But with Tiller, I knew that there was a before and an after. There was a pre-lesson and post-lesson. This is the education of Tiller Bardman in some ways.
Right, exactly.
So I knew that we would be interested in seeing, well, what did he learn? And my frustration with some adventure picaresque type novels, is that we're so involved in the game, in the chase, and then it's just kind of a quick thing of, oh yeah, I'm just telling the story from this place, prison or some safe house, and that's that. And while that can be fun, it felt to me like I wanted to explore the aftermath of everything that might have happened and that he might have learned. I did want the stories, though, to feel as if they're happening at the same time. So that's why I decided to alternate the stories.
And did you write it the way we read it?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did. I did. I didn't write the two stories out and then just, mix them together. Um, and that wasn't a conscious decision. It just happened that way. And probably mostly because of the more madcap story and story with a lot of movement. I liked the idea that I wouldn't know what was coming next, so didn't try to plan it out. And in some ways, going back to the domestic story gave me time to think about something else and then kind of mull what might happen next based upon what was also happening in the present time story.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
such an expanding world in one and a contracting.
yes.
It's real pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. I'm going to put my glasses on and I'm going to look at the questions in the chat, because I always do this too slow. All right, Zoe asks, how did you find the motivation to begin a next novel when one is finished? Yeah, how do you do?
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, it's hard for me. I don't know about you, Anne, but I need a little quiet time to reload, just do fun things. And but you know, I'm always sketching. I'm doing little demonstration novels to myself, you know, little stories, and trying out modalities, you know, narrative, story wise, you know, theme. And so it takes a while, and then somehow it's like this, I don't know, this campaign, you know, you just have to marshal lots of different parts of yourself, I think, to make a commitment. I don't really write short fiction. I write short nonfiction sometimes, but fiction wise, I only write novels. And I have to feel like I have enough energy and enough thought behind it, pre-thought behind it, to make a commitment. And because I don't want to make a commitment, I don't want to just jump into something. I've done that too many times, and had the sorrow of having to throw away 200 pages of something that I'm sure this has happened to you. I hope not, but I'm sure it.
Okay, Jim asks, what is one of the most important things you've learned about your writing since your first novel? That's a good question. I had that on my list.
About my own writing?
Yeah.
Or about writing in general?
About writing in general.
About writing in
Well, no,
general.
it says actually about your writing. Yeah,
Oh.
what one of the most important things that you've learned about your writing since your first novel?
I really don't know. I try not to think about my own writing, to tell you the truth. I rarely read after I'm done, and after it's with my editor. I never want to read it again.
No, definitely. Yeah.
And I hardly, you know, obviously when a book is coming out and you're promoting the book, you have to think about the book, but I I hope I can leave that to others if they're interested. What I've learned about writing, at least, just is that I think I have found that it's, especially writing novels, that I maybe have more faith in the process than I did before. Whereas before I had a lot of hope and wish for things to come about. I think I have more faith. Not that I don't think I have more skill, but I think I have more faith that if I've done my work, if I've thought about things, if I spend the time on the sentences, then it will come together in some way. And whereas before I just, you know, gosh, I I feel like I'm throwing stuff against the wall, and oh gosh, I don't know. Not that I fully know now. It's just that I can have more confidence in my, you know, in the ways in which I fool myself into thinking I know what I'm doing. If that makes any sense.
Absolutely, absolutely makes sense. I agree with that completely. I feel like what I've learned over the years is that I never feel good about a book until I'm on page 80. You know, and so it's like I can think, oh, this is where you feel depressed every single time. This is where you feel really hopeful every single time. Just relax. This is the phase.
Yes, yes.
And I'm wise to myself. Okay, I'm going to ask you one last question. Is there one thing that a writer can do to create more compelling work? And what is it? I'd love to know this.
More compelling work. Wow. Well, you know, one of the things that I seem to write a lot on the comments that for my students is when they are not finding that vibrancy or spark in whatever they're looking at, that somehow their way of describing it or their way into it is maybe too expected, or even if it's not expected, doesn't have that, maybe it goes back to the first thing I was saying, doesn't have that way of, you know, cracking open something. You know, I always think of a moment like I truly do think of it like a nutcracker or like a lobster cracker, where it's there, you know, the shell is there and we can see it, and we all almost can anticipate the newness of it, but you haven't quite cracked it enough via a word choice or a way of describing a consciousness that just opens it up just enough that then I can dive into it. And that's that moment of just when that light comes out of it. That's the vibrancy, right? And that's what I think that's what literature is all about, is it's this new little light, just these new little lights that come out of any moment, thought, word, and sometimes it's lyric light, sometimes it's a different kind of description, sometimes it's a new way of understanding the same old stuff: love, devotion, sacrifice. um, but I, that's what I would say. And I don't, it's probably not helpful to the person who asked the question, but maybe if you could think about it that way.
Yeah, and beautiful, and probably where we should end. Although I have asked you 8% of the questions that I have, uh, maybe we'll do this again. If
Maybe
you
next year I can visit Nashville.
come to Nashville,
Right? I'd love to do that. I'd love to do
yeah,
that. I love music, and I'd love to come.
we would love to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for being our first editions pick and for signing all those books under
Oh,
heroic circumstances, and supporting your independent bookstore, which is not your independent bookstore, but hey.
yeah. No, well, I'm so happy and so honored to finally talk and meet you, and thank you for having your store too. Aside from all your work, thank you for that, because it's important.
It's a pleasure. All right. Take care. Thanks for the book.
Okay. See you soon, Ann.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.